Hey everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey. Now in my last video I responded to an anti-MGTOW video. This one is going to be a little bit more cordial. This is a response to a video by The Distributist, where he made a comment in regards to a topic he talked about with Stardust with a podcast he did recently about Sargon. Now I actually recently subscribed to The Distributist because of the video he did with Stardust. And he actually does pretty good content. It's very comparable to Groundwork for the Metaphysics of MGTOW with Marcus. So he talks about all these different things about philosophy and metaphysics. In fact, I would love to see a podcast where the Distributist and Marcus have kind of a debate. I think that would be just incredibly entertaining because they both seem to be trained philosophers who know what the fuck they're talking about. Anyway, the part that I want to respond to is in regards to his contention that traditionalism is the only thing that works because modernity does not produce enough children to replace the previous generation and eventually dies out, which I kind of agree with. But let's hear what he has to say.
The question is not whether tradition works with modernity. The question is whether tradition works with reality. And we know it works with reality. It has helped the human species survive for 2 millennia. So it works with reality. It is a sustainable model, and human beings can do it, at least hypothetically, and there are examples of them doing it in very small numbers, even in the modern world. Now, why is this question more important than the question of whether traditionalism works with modernity? Well, that's because we haven't asked ourselves the more fundamental question, does modernity work with reality? And I think the answer to that question is that modernity does not. Because modernity, the technological world that we've experienced in the last half of the 20th century and in the first part of the 21st century, has not figured out how to get birth rates to a sustainable level. And people treat this like it's a detail. Like, people treat the fact that modernity, and when I mean modernity, I mean no country, no modern country in the world has figured out how to solve this problem of fewer children being born than to replace the previous generation. Nobody's figured that out, and people, whether they're MGTOW or whether they're feminists or whether they're corporatists or whether they're libertarians, they all treat this like it's detail. It's a little problem, it'll go away. But it's not. If this problem isn't solved, if there's not some way to have more than replacement or at replacement levels of childbearing, then modernity is an evolutionary dead end for the human race. Modernity will not be compatible with reality. And this is why I do not take Stardust's critique as seriously as I think he thinks I should take it. Because the contest that we're in right now is not how well our ideologies can conform to the constraints of modernity. The contest that we were in as denizens of reality is how well do our ideas correspond to the reality we live in? How well do our ideas correspond with just survival? I mean, and I'm a Christian, and it's a Darwinian concept. And any kind of belief system or economic system, modernity included, that is unable to replace itself generation on generation is not going to live. It's not going to last.
Now I know that was a bit long, but I actually have a solution for this. Now the traditionalist response is to go back to an early Christian kind of situation, where the man was in charge, but the woman was still respected and provided for. Everything was about the family and society. This is what MGTOW referred to as traditionalism. My problem with traditionalism is that it subserviates the man. It is the man who holds the responsibility in society, always has, always will. And by virtue of that responsibility, the man should have authority. For some reason, the fact that women give birth seems to entitle them to far more credit than they truly deserve. Giving birth is simply a biological process that requires no effort on the woman's part. She shits out a couple kids over the course of her entire life, and somehow that makes her equal, or comparably equal, to a man who works himself to death, decade after decade, to provide for his family. No person could look at that situation and call that equal or equally valuable. Clearly the man contributes far more to the family, far more to society. He should enjoy far more authority. And this is the difference between a patriarchy and traditionalism. Now, I separate patriarchy into a hard patriarchy, which involves a lot of male versus male violence, tournament mating, and harems. A lot of war. Not necessarily a fan of the hard patriarchy. And then there's the softer patriarchy, where the man's still in charge, but there's more monogamy, there's less harems, there's less war. Now, something I think is not required in this system is treating women as equal to men in any way. Now, I'm going to solve the problem of low fertility rates in modern countries. I'm going to solve it. You're not going to like the answer, but I'm going to solve it. So since we want to raise our fertility rate, it would be helpful if we looked at the countries that had the highest fertility rate. Obviously, we look at the countries that have high fertility rates. They're doing something different. Maybe we should do that. So from the website Statista, in the article, The 20 Countries with the Highest Fertility Rates in 2015, the top 10 countries are Niger, Burundi, Mali, Somalia, Uganda, Burkina Faso, whatever that is, Zambia, Malawi, Angola, and Afghanistan. Now the top 3 have fertility rates over 6. Over 6, which means the population is tripling every generation. And those are Niger, Burundi, and Mali. So let's focus specifically on them. So what are Niger, Burundi, and Mali doing so right that they can have a fertility rate over 6? Now, if you just type in the words Niger and mother into Google, you might come across these BBC articles from 2012 saying that Niger is the worst place to be a mother. The worst place to be a mother according to Save the Children. So I'll just read this article. It reads, quote, "The West African state of Niger is the worst place in the world to be a mother according to Save the Children. The ranking comes in the charity's annual index, which compares conditions for mothers in 165 countries. It considers a number of factors including health, education, economic status, and nutrition. In fact, in the index rankings, 3 of the top 5 worst places to be a mother include Niger, Afghanistan, and Mali, which were in our top 10 for highest fertility rate. But wait, it gets better. According to an article from The Richest called 10 Worst National Educational Systems, it ranks the countries with the worst educational systems in the world. Number 3 is Mali. Number 2 is Burkina Faso. And number 1 is Niger. It reads, quote, "Oil-rich and regionally powerful, Niger tops has the lowest educational level in the world today, tied for the lowest adult literacy rate of this list at 28.7%. The educational situation in Niger is bleak. The population of the country with a secondary education, 5.1%. The gross enrollment ratio, 1.5%. There is no civil war, a minimal influx of refugees from neighboring countries, and a relatively stable political system in comparison to many African countries. Yet unfortunately, Niger is consistently at the bottom of UN indexes for almost every category of analysis: adult literacy rate, education development index, and human development index," unquote. So what does this tell us? If you want a high fertility rate, all you gotta do is oppress the shit out of women. Don't educate them. Don't give them rights. Don't even give them healthcare, apparently. I mean, the numbers don't lie. You can't argue with the statistics. Fertility rates over 6. So what would this involve? All you need to do is strip women of all their rights.
It's the unspoken truth of humanity that you crave subjugation.
If you see these exposés about puppy mills, where they just have these female dogs just get constantly pregnant to produce puppies that they sell for exorbitant prices, a 6% fertility rate. Done. Done. All you gotta do is take women's rights away. Take them all away. All of them. It's what God wants us to do. This is Turd Flinging Monkey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.